so here are the questions that I got. I'll put them up at the top. Maybe there were some of the ones that you had. You just didn't have the time to send me a message. I got asked about 7, 8, 15, 23, and 24. We're going to cross out 24. I thought I had taken that off the study guide. That's just got way too many different parts for it. It's not that bad to do. There's just a lot of things that we haven't gone over about bearings and north, northeast, and all that stuff. So we're going to cross out 24. There's not going to be one like that on the test. Also, 23 talks about guy wires. I also took off anything on the test that said guy wires because so many of you guys don't know what that is. I'm going to go ahead and do that problem for you just so you can see if something was set up like that, but just know that it's not going to say guy wires. The problems will be more like the planes, the river, the kite, that type of problem on the test. So we'll start with number 7. So number 7, this is our pilot problem. I am going to let you know that there will be one similar to this on the test. There will not be the elevation part, though. It will just be the distance from the plane to point A is what you'll have to find. The numbers will be different, but it's a similar question to this. So let's go ahead and see what we know on this. They tell us that M is 28 degrees, K is 51 degrees, and we know that C is 6 miles. And they're asking us to figure out what this length is. I'm going to call it X, but what's going to be nice for us to remember is that these lines are parallel here and on the bottom. So our interior, our alternate interior angles are the same. So angle A is 28 degrees and angle B is 51 degrees. So now we can just draw a triangle out to the side that's the same one, but it doesn't have all the mess. So that's a 6. We're trying to figure out X. This is 28, and this is 51. So now it just comes down to filling out this angle here, and then using the law of sine. So we'll subtract from 180 if you need to write it out. 180 minus 28 minus 51, and that is 101. So 101 degrees. And now we have an opposite pair, so we can use law of sines. Remember, that's how you can use law of sines if you have an opposite pair. So I'll go ahead and write that. So we have sine of 101 over 6. And we'll use 51 degrees because we're trying to find this x equals sine of 51 degrees over x. And cross multiply, put it in the calculator, and solve. So we'll write out what goes in the calculator. 6 sine of 51, I'll just multiply it, because x times sine of 101, we have to divide both sides by sine of 101. Okay, so we'll just type that in the calculator, and that will give us our length between the plane and A. So 6 sine of 51 divided by 101 is going to give us 4.8 miles. On your test, I'm going to have you round everything to tenths so that it's easier. There's going to be fewer rounding errors since it is in a Google form. That way it'll grade it a little bit better. There isn't multiple choice on the test. It is all short answer. So make sure that you're rounding to the tenths place. I tried to put it in every question, but just in case I missed that. So x is 4.8. Okay. If you want to know what the elevation of the plane is, I didn't ask you that on the test, but if you wanted to figure out what that was, now that we know that this is 4.8, elevation of the plane is this height, so we're trying to find the height, and you can just use the fact that this is the opposite side in this mini triangle here, and that is the hypotenuse. So opposite and hypotenuse, we'll use sine, so we would just say sine of 28 degrees is the opposite, which was our height, over 4.8, multiply 4.8 times sine of 28, and I think you should get the height is 2.3 miles. Okay, but I won't ask you that one on the test, but that's just in case you wanted to know. You will have to know this part to figure out from A to airplane. Alright, the next question was number 8. Remember, you can fast forward to whichever ones you need to hear. Pause, do whatever you need to do. Alright, so number 8, we're just trying to find this little spot right there, which is AD. So what we need to do is find as much of the stuff in this triangle as possible, and then we'll be able to use that. So let's see. This triangle here has two sides that are the same, which means we have two angles that are the same. So that's 23. This one's also going to be 23. And now if we think about the outside being its own triangle, forget about the line in the middle, we'll be able to figure out what this angle is. This is 46, and this is 23. So if you do 180 minus 46 minus 23, you'll end up with 111. So 111 is the angle here. Okay, and we're trying to find AD. I'll call that X. So now we can just pretend like this triangle isn't here at all. I don't care about you anymore. I'll scratch you off. I'm only looking at this miniature one. And I see an opposite pair. And I've got an angle across from the side I'm looking to find. So law of sines is perfect for this. So we can do sine of 111 over 11 equals sine of 23 over x. Cross multiply 11 times sine of 3. Then we'll divide by sine of 11. I just don't have space to write all that out. And then x is equal to 4.6. So 11 times sine of 23 divided by sine of 111. Okay, so all we needed this triangle was to figure out what that was, so you'll know how to fill in the angle in this one. Alright, the next one I heard about was number 15. 15, these are the ones that you always hear on TV. Two roads and two trains or planes or whatever. So we're just going to draw out what the situation looks like. So we have, I'm going to use this space above me. Two roads diverge at an angle of 30 degrees. Okay, so I'm going to make a 30-degree angle. Cool. Two cars leave the intersection at 5, and we want to know where they are at 5:30. So how long have they gone? They've been gone for 30 minutes, so that's going to be important for us. One of them is going 45 miles per hour. The other one is going 35 miles per hour. But when we're talking about this, we want to know how far they actually traveled. So if you're going 45 miles an hour and you go half of an hour, you will travel half of that time, right? Because if you do that much in 1 hour, in half of an hour, you would do half of that time. So the distance here is going to be 45 divided by 2, which would be 22.5 miles. I like that back in. Okay, so 22.5 miles. And the same thing over here, we went 30 minutes at 35 miles an hour, which means we have traveled 17.5 miles. And they just want to know how far apart these two, what are they, cars? Cars? Could I keep saying trains? I don't know. So we're just going to draw a triangle and see about that. So I'm going to, let's see where I can do it where it looks pretty decent. I'm going to put this stuff on there without the miles per hour. Okay, so this one has gone 22.5 miles. This has gone 17.5 miles. This is 30 degrees, and we're trying to find x. So we don't have an opposite pair, so we're going to have to use law of cosines to figure out what x is. So x squared, okay, if that's what you're trying to find, when we do our cosine of our angle, we'll use 30. So x squared is equal to 22.5 squared plus 17.5 squared minus 2 times 22.5 times 17.5 times cosine of 30 degrees. So just type that in the calculator, and then that gives you x squared. So to figure out x, you take the square root. So you do the square root of whatever you just got there, and I think it ends up being that x is 11.4 miles. Okay, so the big thing that I think maybe was confusing y'all is you couldn't figure out how far this distance was going to be. So 30 minutes is half of that. If it said 60 minutes, you would use the full thing. If it said 120 minutes, you would double it. So you just kind of have to think about how much of an hour that is. This looks like a mess. Alright, so what was the next one? 23. 23, since it is a guy wire problem, I'll just show you how to set it up and what that means in case you see that some other time. I don't think you take the time to work it all the way out since I know it's some on the test. So a shortwave radio antenna, so this is our antenna, is supported by 2 guy wires. Guy wires are those like really tight wires that are holding up poles. So those are your guy wires, just in case you wanted to know what that was. And one was 155 feet long, one was 175 feet long, and this is 63 degrees. So they wanted us to know how far apart they are, so we would just use law of sines to figure out one of the angles, and then find the other angle by subtracting, then use law of sines again for that. But like I said, there's not one like that on your test where you have to do guy wires. I just wanted you to know what a guy wire was. Okay, if you have any other questions, they won't be added to this video because I can't make an addition. But feel free to ask me. I've been sending screenshots back to people, video chatting with people, just answering random questions. So whatever question you have, ask me. It's fine. I'm just stuck in my house, so there's really nothing else to do. I mean, except for watch TV and eat stuff. But good luck studying. I know y'all will do fine. It's really not that bad of a test. And again, if you have any other questions, ask.